We are at the Muritala Mohammed International Airport Road here in Lagos. The 5.7-kilometer road was inaugurated last year and has been enhancing movement of travelers in and out of the country, as well as those traveling between Apapa, Oshodi and Ikeja axis. Welcome to Inside Lagos. I'm Adedoja. Salam Adeniyi. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced that schools in the state will resume this September. Governor Sanwo-Olu said this in his last briefing, that all tertiary institutions will reopen on 14th of September. He added that efforts are in progress for possible reopening of primary and secondary schools on 21st of this month. As the global community is racing to eventually halt the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, Lagos State government has continued to demonstrate capacity and revealing its strategy in the fight against the virus, since it witnessed its first case on the 27th of February, after which it shut down activities in the state to curtail the spread of the virus. 6 months after, the government is now expanding its opening to include schools. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in his briefing said a lot of progress has been made to flatten the curve of the pandemic in the state.
Lagos continues to remain the epicenter, not only for the pandemic, but also, I'm pleased to say, of the response as well. We continue to lead the way in testing, in contact tracing, and treating of these cases aggressively and adapting our responses to the rapidly evolving nature of the pandemic at every situation. I'm therefore pleased to announce that our modeling shows that all our efforts at responding to this pandemic are achieving the desired goal of flattening the curve, as we continue to see a consistent decline in the rate of confirmed COVID-19 infection in the states. I must, however, say that even as we continue to record a decline in the number of positivity, newly confirmed cases in the states, this is not a time to rest on our oars and completely disregard the very necessary safety precautions that have been issued for our safety and our well-being.
Mr. Sanwo-Olu further says the state now has a means of helping those that are tested positive for COVID-19 to call the home-based care park.
We now have two pathways through which confirmed COVID-19 cases are managed in the state, either through our home-based strategy or in one of our designated COVID-19 centers. This has been supported by access to our telemedicine service through our statewide Eco Telemed, and also medical visits by our health personnel. In this regards to our home-based care strategy, we have dedicated COVID-19 care packs that will be issued and have started issuing them to patients that tested positive and want to be managed through the home care based. I'm happy to show you, this is a typical home care pack that we've designed. It's free of charge, and all of it has in its content some medications which are meant to be taken daily. It has hand sanitizer, it's got a face mask, it has thermometer for you to check your temperature, and also it's been sealed and it's free, and we'll have thousands and thousands of these to give out to our patients. And in terms of testing, we now have 14 testing laboratories in Lagos, 4 public laboratories, and we've been able to accredit a total of 10 private laboratories. Testing, like I said, we have the 4 labs and we have the 10 for the private laboratories, which means that we're showing COVID-19 symptoms, or if you have, so there are 2 categories, wanting to test and needing to test. You all have choices as into where or how you want to go about your testing. Testing in the private labs are available at a fee for those who wish to test out of curiosity or to fulfill a travel or a work requirement. We must, however, continue to remember that the ease of transmissibility nature of this virus and the fact that it possesses very severe consequences for the very vulnerable in our society and the weak amongst us. So we still need to adhere to all of the protocols.
The governor has now ordered tertiary institutions to reopen by 14th of September, while the state is still considering 21st of September for primary and secondary school resumption.
For our tertiary institutions, they will be allowed to open from September the 14th, 2020, for all our tertiary institutions. However, as regards our primary and secondary schools, we're working towards reopening them around the 21st of September 2020. This decision is not cast in stone and is subject to a review of our ongoing modeling and what the procedures will be coming out from the Ministry of Health. You remember that we had said that we hope that the virus will peak. We will flatten the curve in the month of August. We think that from the modeling we've seen, it appears that it has actually peaked, and in the last 2 weeks, we've continued to see a drop in the positivity that we have encountered in the States. Restaurants are permitted to open for in-dining services, and they must continue to ensure that maximum of 50% occupancy at all points is still what they need to continue to ensure strict compliance to. Social clubs, recreation centers that have registered trustees, as been explained before, they will continue to obey with those compliances as presently being run by Lagos State Safety Commission. Actually must put on record, however, that we are very sympathetic to the plight of our business owners, particularly the businesses in the hospitality and tourism sector. We are currently reviewing the permissible opening dates for those in these businesses during the month of September. So for the avoidance of doubt, event centers, bars, lounges, nightclubs, spas, beaches, cinemas, gyms are still closed for now. But in the month of September, we will look at the modeling again. Once the airports are open, we'll review the modeling. And once we see the indication, we will come back to you very shortly and probably agree a date for them to start opening. But we honestly do sympathize with that sector of our business. We know how critical they are, but we want to appeal with them, appeal to all of them that the patience they've had in the last couple of months, we think is just a little more before we all give them the complete nod for them to open. All civil servants in the State Unified Public Service continue to comply with the prevailing guidelines as roster scheduling that has been issued by the head of service, meaning that we still have people that cannot come in. It's only if you are on a regular schedule to come into the public service that you'll be allowed to come in. The federal government has announced the reopening of our international airspace, with international travel to resume at both Lagos and Abuja International Airport from the 5th of September. To this end, on our part in Lagos, we'll be working assiduously with the Ministry of Aviation, the Federal Ministry of Aviation, and NCDC to put in a robust plan and adequate measures at ensuring that the safety at our airports are next to none. In fact, in the coming week, I'll be hosting the management of FAN, and also I'll be taking a trip around the airport, Muritala Mohammed, to ensure and to see things for myself that we're indeed ready for the level of the traffic that will be coming in from the 5th of September. I would also wish to mention that we're working with the federal government to ensure that our international travelers might be able to access our online portals where they would be able to make bookings as regards once they come in within 24 to 48 hours to appear at a testing lab in which they had arranged before they board their flight. Meaning that with the PTF, we'll be announcing during the week a website. We've designed one already where people from wherever part of the world they are, they can log on to that website and they can choose what part of the country they are coming to. They can fill in all their data, and they can also go ahead and choose what lab they want to visit for their COVID-19 test, and also make payment online and have their docket printed even before they also board their plane to come to Nigeria.
For religious houses and shops, the governor advised that they continue to adhere to instructions given by the NCDC and the state government.
Religious leaders have the responsibility to ensure that services are conducted in full compliance with the relevant guidelines as spelled out by the NCDC and by the Lagos State Ministry of Health. We must all show commitment to protecting ourselves and other people, because there can no longer be any measure in which we don't have collective responsibility. The fact that we've seen the gradual easing in our lockdown does not mean that we're now returning to our old ways of doing things. The easing you are seeing is the outcome of a careful and a deliberate attempt to ensure that the livelihood are not crippled by the overwhelming destructive tendencies of the virus. It is certainly not an invitation for us to be careless or to show any form of nonchalant attitude. We must continue to adhere to the guidelines outlined by our health authorities, continue to wear our face mask at all public places, maintain social distancing as possible, and wash and sanitize our hands frequently and thoroughly, avoid handshakes, hugs, and avoid mass gathering where possible. A big part of the responsibility for enforcing these guidelines also lie with us as individuals. Shop and business owners and transporters also have the duty to refuse entry or render service to people that are not wearing face masks.
For Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, residents must continue to adhere to the safety guidelines so as to further flatten the curve of the virus in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu last Saturday visited the site of the helicopter crash at Salvation Road in Okwebi area of the state 24 hours after the incident to assess the damage of the crash. The governor promised that the Lagos State government will carry out integrity tests on the buildings and do all the necessary repairs and assist the affected families.
The whole wall, yeah, is already broken. Some roof broken, cars crushed, and so many damages. But that is not us, since we ourselves are not damaged.
I was inside. All of a sudden, I heard the sound, the blast. I should call it blast. It was so loud. lightning, thunder, smoke, everywhere. There was darkness in the sky.
We assured the people of that area of their safety. We've now removed the wreck to the AIB office where they will conduct further investigations.
The Bell 206 helicopter belonging to Coram Aviation was traveling in from Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, with 2 crew members and a passenger before it crashed in between 2 residential buildings in the Okwebi area of Lagos at midday on Friday. Governor Sanwo-Olu sympathized with the families of the 3 people that lost their loved ones during the crash and prayed that God would comfort the families of the deceased.
Thanks to God, and to also commiserate, with the families that have also lost their loved ones on behalf of the people and government of Lagos State. And I've also received, personally, I received a lot of calls from my colleagues, from very well-meaning Nigerians, and you know that the AIB, they're still conducting their own investigation, right? And so we cannot begin to talk about what caused all of these things. I mean, they are the experts, and at the appropriate time, they'll be telling us what are the reasons or what caused the mishap. And our prayer is that such things will not repeat itself again.
Mr. Sanwo-Olu also commended all the federal and state agencies for their quick response by moving to the site of the crash shortly after the helicopter crashed. Captain Ernest Chika was the pilot who flew that chopper. The late hero emptied the helicopter's fuel tank when he sensed trouble and avoided crashing the aircraft into houses. May his soul rest in peace, and may God give the family and friends the fortitude to bear the loss. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has inaugurated a new governing council for the 4 state-owned tertiary institutions. Governor Sanwo-Olu said his priority is to make the citadels of learning innovation centers.
Education has been one of the most integral parts of the Lagos State government's development agenda, and Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has continued to reiterate commitment to improving education in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu last Tuesday inaugurated chairmen and members of councils for the Lagos State University, Lagos State Polytechnic, Adeniran Ogunsoya College of Education, and Michael Otoedola College of Primary Education at a ceremony held in the banquet hall of the State House, Alausa. Governor Sanwo-Olu during the event said the composition of the councils marked a watershed in his administration's drive to repositioning the state-owned tertiary institutions from regular degree awarding schools to world-class citadels of innovation and invention.
I have no doubt that we have chosen well and we have chosen rightly. And I know that coming out of this ceremony here, you have all been charged up to go back to these institutions as council members, to chart out goals and objectives that will not only take these institutions to a higher level, it will actually take them to the citadel of each of the stratas of educations that we have. We know that our university, the Lagos State University, LASU, which continues to remain as the outstanding, the best state university in the country. With all of you coming here today, you will even take it further. You will take it higher. That whatever ranking LASU has in the global index, you will certainly surpass that global index, and you will make LASU, the university of choice, not only in Nigeria, but in the whole of Africa. And our great LASU will continue to remain a citadel of hub. To say the same thing about our Polytechnic. Not only as Lagos State Polytechnic continue to remain a tertiary institution of innovators and inventors. I was gladly excited when I came and I attended your last convocation ceremony. And as the government, all of the promises that we gave you at that convocation, we have started implementing them. We're indeed excited, knowing fully well that the Polytechnic is on the right channel to ensure that it holds its place in the Committee of Polytechnics, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa. And so, Acting Provost, I've handed over to you a council that we know, that we believe will help you and will help that Polytechnic take us to a higher and a better level. And I want to congratulate you. Similarly, our outstanding College of Education, Adirong College of Education. Everybody, I'm sure in this room, know that name and know that that College of Education has a whole lot of history. And I want to enjoin and charge the new council that we are just inaugurated now, that College of Education, that indeed our College of Education needs to begin to compete and compete well with other relevant institutions. I have said to you, even when you came up, that you and I are going to work together and ensure that whatever is needed for that College of Education to have its rightful place, to have a rightful position in this country, we'll certainly do it. Whatever reform, whatever changes that need to happen, it certainly will happen, and reform and take it to a greater height. I want to commend you and I want to thank you for coming up to serve. And finally, our College of Primary Education, Michael Otedola College of Primary Education in North Region, Epe. And I think it's very commendable that more than half of the council that were running that college are returning back, including the chairman. It confirms that you're doing a good job, but indeed, the only reward for a good job is more work. And so that's why we're giving you this additional work to continue to do what they're doing and in fact, take it higher and ensure that we continue to see MOPED as a training ground for our teachers that will be competing in both our primary education and in our primary schools.
The governor charged the council's members to key into his administration's reform agenda and bring their outstanding achievements to bear in changing the narrative of the schools. Governor Sanwo-Olu also encouraged them to set the tertiary institutions on the platform of self-sustenance by leveraging their network in global academic and business circles to attract endowments and research grants to the schools.
In the THE, the first E there is education and technology. And so you fit very well into our economic and into our process agenda as a government. It's not perhaps just by sheer coincidence that we've selected you carefully. It's also because as a government, we understand and will appreciate where technology and education sits in our deliverables. And so we know as a government that we need to partner with you. We need to give you the air to flare and to do well. But as a government, we will not relent. We will not abrogate our responsibility at ensuring that we give you all of the right encouragement, all of the right resources to ensure that you do well. Technology, it's a way to go. It's a new normal. It's one of the things that will determine the future all of us are looking. And so as a state government, we're currently doing what we call a 6,000, a first phase of 3,000 citywide metropolitan fiber optics that we're deploying to ensure that not only does Lagos remain a smart city, our educational institutions, our tertiary educational institutions will be a place for reference. As each of those fibers are going around, we will ensure that adequate bandwidth are dropped in LASU, adequate bandwidth are dropped in the Polytechnic, adequate bandwidth will be dropped in our College of Education and also at the primary College of Education. Because we know that with technology, not only will you advance all of the training and bring your children to a level in which they will become enviable, you will be working, with, you'll have a council that will be working with the retinue of staff there that will be self-motivated. We know that technology is a critical component that will help you deliver.
The governor described technological education as a new normal, saying the state had targeted key tertiary institutions in the ongoing deployment of metropolitan fiber optics, provision of digital infrastructure that would enable Lagos realize its smart city program and deliver critical components of its education blueprint.
And from the Muritala Mohammed International Airport Road, which is used by an average of 50,000 vehicles daily, making it one of the busiest roads in Lagos State. We draw the curtains onto this edition of Inside Lagos. But before we go, we have to tell you that the decline in the number of positive cases of COVID-19 does not mean that the pandemic is over. Let's continue to adhere to all the safety protocols. Don't be careless. I'm Adedoja. Salam Adeniyi. See you next time. Bye-bye.